During this section, we're going to be taking a look at a few built-in functions found inside of Microsoft Excel that deal with working with an Excel list. Now, open in front of you, I've got our example file. This is Excel 102 exercises, and I'm currently looking at the list functions worksheet. And just to remind you, this has got a few worksheets inside of here. Lower left-hand corner of your screen, you got those little arrows there. If you right-click on those arrows, you can get a list of all of your worksheets. Let's make sure you select List Functions. I'll hit OK, and make sure you're looking at this worksheet here. Now, like I said, we're going to take a look at a few functions here that really work with a list such as this. Right, we've talked a little bit about lists. Your list has column headers along the top, and down below you got rows and rows of records. Now, you could have tens of rows, hundreds, thousands of rows, hundreds of thousands of rows of data inside of this worksheet. Now, what I'd like to do is I want to quickly perform some calculations on this list. Now, much earlier in the course, we talked about things like the sum function. I want to be able to sum up a range of cells. The sum function is great, and it's the most common function used inside of Microsoft Excel. But what if I want to sum up this F column, the total sales column? I want to sum up those values there, but I only want to do it for a specific category, right? I just want to do it for rent. That's it. I don't want the entire total sales column. I only want to get it where the category column is equal to rent. That's it, right? Rent, 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 rent. Well, with the standard sum function, it just grabs a range and it really doesn't care anything else about that data. It just sums up the numbers within the range. Well, in steps what's called the DSUM, the database sum. This right here, it's a list inside of Excel, but we can consider it a database. It's a table of data, column headers along the top, rows of records down below. By utilizing the DSUM function, we can add criteria to the sum. We're going to say, hey, Excel, I want to sum up the total sales, but I only want to do it where the category is equal to rent, or where the category is equal to telemarketing, or whatever it happens to be, whatever our criteria is for our sum. So let's take a look at the first one here. There's actually a few different types of database functions. DSUM just happens to be one of them. So let's take a look at working with DSUM. Now, in order for the DSUM to work, our first step is we have to set up the criteria section of the function. We essentially need to identify which column we want to search for a value within. So, for example, we're going to say, hey, Excel, I want you to go to the category column, and I want you to find rent, and then give me the sum of that record. So off to the right someplace, I'm going to put in a couple little pieces of information that's going to help assist with this function. So the first thing I'm going to put in here, and I'm going to start this inside of, let's actually start instead of I2. I'm going to put in category. Now this is important because that text right there matches this text right here. Has to be spelled the same way, no extra spaces in there. Right, if I go into that cell, go to the formula bar, it's just straight up category. There's nothing else in there, and it's spelled just like it is here inside of the list. That's very important because that's how Excel is going to identify the column that we want to search for our criteria within. Now, right below that, in the next adjacent cell down, I'm going to put in the criteria that I wanted to search for. So in this case, I'm just going to type in rent. Now, once again, very important that that value matches the rent value here. Got to be spelled the same way, no extra spaces in the cell, nothing else. It's got to be rent. Now, that's really our criteria section. And if I'd like to, just to make it look a little bit nicer, because it is something that's going to be on the worksheet, I could format it. Maybe I want to change the background color. I want to change the font color, you know, whatever it is that I want to do here. And I'm going to make it blue. I'm going to give it a border at the bottom. Maybe I'll bump up the font size. You know, whatever it is, whatever is going to make that stand out a little bit more for us. Not totally necessary. The formatting does not need to match this over here, colors and such, but the spelling, right? That's the important part. All right, so once that's completed there, then we can start to create the function that goes along with this. So before we get into that function, let's pause right here. I want you to nail this down. Just drop category inside of cell I2. Remember, make sure it matches the B1 cell. And then drop in rent down below. No extra spaces, nothing else inside there. Let's get our header and our criteria that we're going to use within the DSUM function. Try that out.